Welcome back to the channel. So my original idea was to do the hobby roundup video, and I kind of alluded to that on the social media, but given the gravity of this specific story, I thought I would give this one its own dedicated video. Long story short, this Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, at the usual time on the live stream, I want to talk about, the Wagner resetting the record for, most expensive sports card. That's kind of a thing that I'd be happy to talk about. I want to talk about the PWCC and eBay drama and all that stuff related to that, because there's some interesting stuff related to that. But since this is the current shoe to drop in this suddenly very newsworthy week in the hobby, I thought that I would give this its own dedicated treatment. So here we go, and we're going to do this video related to this, and then like I said, on Friday we'll talk about some of the other elements and some more on this. So this is just kind of initial first thoughts as the news kind of circulated in the last couple of hours. Long story short, I'll include links to both of these as usual so that you can check them out for yourself. Between the two, they do give some good pieces of information, so I'll make sure I include them. Bottom line, Fanatics has acquired, basically based on the news that came out, they have been able to acquire exclusive licenses from both Major League Baseball and the Major League Baseball Players Association. So this would be something that would take over after Topps' licenses expire. So that's a key important piece. It's not like Topps immediately can no longer produce cards, but there is going to be a little bit of a window. And then after that, then Fanatics would take over. They'd be able to produce certain kind of cards earlier, and I'll kind of go over that in a second. But that's huge because in the baseball card landscape, Topps has been able to maintain and really be able to actually produce baseball cards since 1951. So it breaks a more than 70-year cycle. Again, it's not going to go away right away, but there's also some other downstream implications as well, which I'll talk about right here in a second. So this one from Action Network, we'll talk about a couple of the pieces here. So the union deal, as far as the Major League Baseball Players Association, doesn't start before 2023. So like I said, there is still a window where Topps is going to have exclusive rights to be able to produce the cards from both Major League Baseball and the Players Association. And the MLB deal doesn't start until 2026. So there's two separate windows there. Now, the terms are unclear, and that more information will come on that. But Major League Baseball and MLBPA are going to have an equity stake in the new company formed just to produce trading cards. So that's kind of a big deal. So this is the Fanatics piece that's going to produce cards. And Fanatics has hired StockX founder Josh Luber to run the business. So there are some pieces to it. Now, the other piece that's included here is Mudrick Capital, which I'll talk about in a second. But that's a major issue for them because they were going to take Topps public in a deal that was valued at $1.3 billion. And that was going to happen going forward. That was actually going to happen, I believe, next week. I think it's referenced in one of these articles here. It was going to be next Wednesday. Here we go. So it was going to be shareholders were going to vote on the deal next Wednesday morning. So this is going to put a big wrench in that whole thing. Because as it's mentioned here, while Topps has 5 seasons left on its MLB deal, losing the license makes it a much less attractive property. Why would you want to get in on it now? Now, all of a sudden, really, Topps' value becomes in its other licenses, which are certainly less valuable, but also its intellectual property, the Topps brand name, Bowman and things related to that. It becomes a lot more interesting. And suddenly it may not be worth merging with them because the valuation will not be there. So that's a second shoe to drop. It's not just that they're going to lose the license again, not immediately. It's what happens next. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to lose this license. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And there's, the clock is ticking on that. Well, once you do, all of a sudden, what do you have left? And I'll touch on a second article here where there may be some more movements from this new Fanatics, venture beyond this. But this is obviously a huge shoe to drop to start off with. Now, unfortunately for Topps, they were not in a position to be able to win this bidding war because Fanatics has already been valued at over $18 billion, and they certainly have the capital to be able to offer a very attractive offer, and being able to offer an equity stake to Major League Baseball and the Players Association makes it even more attractive. They have an even greater stake inside of this new venture, this new company. So they're bringing in all the big guns, and they made an offer, the Godfather offer. They couldn't refuse. And then Topps is the one left out in the cold on that one. So even though Topps has paid over $20 million to the union in 2020, this could be easily dwarfed by this kind of deal because now it's all in-house and they have an equity stake in it. So this has obviously made that deal a lot more attractive. Now, this second article is from Sports Collectors Daily, reiterating a lot of the same components of it, but it also includes this. Evan Drellich, I may have mispronounced that, I apologize, from The Athletic, reported that Fanatics is on the verge of partnering with players from Major League Baseball, which we just talked about, the NFL, and the NBA. So they may be making some overtures to enter into that space a little bit more about, the cards, and getting into that space may open the door for them to produce cards of a variety of different sports and be able to maybe get some inroads in some of those other licenses as well. So that's kind of a big deal. Now, bottom line of all this, there is a lot to digest here, and we will definitely expand upon it and talk about it some more on Friday. But, short story, the world doesn't change for Topps right away, but as soon as next week, some things are major things are going to change because that Mudrick, shareholder vote is going to be a big deal. I wouldn't be surprised if they either push it back or if it ends up being a rejection, which, like I said, in the short run is going to hurt Tops. That's going to be a major body blow. But then they're going to have the additional major body blow. 2023 Fanatics could have a player's license as early as then, and then 2026 and beyond, they're going to have that exclusive license kick in for Major League Baseball as well. So it's one of those things where they could already be making plans, and within the next couple of years, they could be producing cards and entering to that space. And if they're able to get any other licenses, even players-only licenses from either the MLB or the NFL, they could immediately become a player out of nowhere. Fanatics, never having produced a card, all of a sudden becomes a major player inside of the sports card landscape. So this is a seismic shift with a bit of a delayed reaction. It's like we can tell it's a seismic shift. We can tell it's probably going to be a really big deal, but we're going to have to wait a little bit for all the pieces to fall into place and see exactly where we're going to end up with that. So that's kind of the short version of my initial thoughts on this. Again, I want to talk about this in addition to some of those other items. I do want to talk about the PWCC eBay drama because frankly, that's fun. But this is obviously a bigger deal and kind of deserves its own standalone video. So I'll leave it at that. I want to hear about any thoughts you might have in the comments section. I'd like to know what you think. Even if you're not a big baseball person, you can probably think that this is probably something that's going to be either on the back or in the front of our minds for the next while as, some of these things start to move into position. And maybe some of these companies are going to have to start, shoring up some of their exclusives to try to maintain them and hold back this new Fanatics behemoth that's coming for them. Aside from that, the usual things. If you like the video, please like it. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We do talk about stuff like this when it breaks from time to time. And then on Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern time, we'll have a live stream where we'll talk about this and a variety of other topics which us in the chat want to chat about. So it's just kind of a hangout, but we'll talk about some hobby stuff for sure. Anyway, that's it for me for now. Thanks very much.